Welcome to the Functional Health Coaching Show, where we are here to support and answer your questions so that you can help people on a deeper level get real results and grow your health coaching business. Do you have questions you want to ask live on the show? You can call in every Friday at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 1-347-637-1378. Are you looking to increase your credibility and grow your health coaching business using functional lab testing and data-driven protocols so that you can confidently solve health issues? Well, we have the course for you. Go to fdn.today/show to learn more and sign up today. Okay, let's join today's episode.
Well, happy Friday, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to be back with you here. I think I was out last week and missed you guys. So enjoy having a good conversation and a chat on Fridays, but I'm sure that Ryan and Reed did a good job taking over, had a good call also. But you tuned into the FDN Fantastic Friday call, or the otherwise known as the Functional Health Coaching Show, where we help you with your questions, your cases, anything you have going on. It's all fair game. So if you like to call in and say hello, make a comment, add to the conversation, or ask a question, maybe most importantly, you can do that by calling 347-637-1378. Again, 347-637-1378. And just hit 1 on the keypad, and I'll know you're there and bring you on. I'll call out your area code and ask your name. Make sure we know who we're talking to, and you're free to ask a question or two. It doesn't have to be on topic necessarily. So we're here to help you guys. If you're a graduate out there working on your cases, you have a question you want to ask about, we're happy to chime in there. Or if you are a trainee moving through the course and you have some questions about things in the course, principles or concepts that are in the course, or just questions, we'll do the best we can to answer those. And then, hey, if you happen to be tuning into this podcast, which is one way that I found FDN, and you're looking for a course like this, we're growing pretty quickly. Been really amazing number of new people coming on and taking the course, and graduates as well. So we're doing our job. People coming on and learning this valuable tool and powerful work that we get to do. So if you're looking at this course and trying to get a feel for what FDN is about and who we are, I think it's a good place to be tuning in each week. So we do this about 1 o'clock Central Time pretty much every week. We get to join you guys and hang out and talk, and hopefully have a good time and talk things FDN. All right. Well, I have got my co-host here, Ryan Monahan, so I don't want to ignore you, Ryan. So, man, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty well, Brandon. Thanks for asking. We're finally
awesome.
All moved in to the new house and starting to get settled in, so it feels good. Mm-hmm.
That is a good thing. That's not an easy task. Moving is not easy, no matter if it's down the street or across the country.
No. You always think it's not going to be so bad, and it always ends up taking a little more work than you think it will.
It does, but then you get all organized and feeling good, and it kind of get into the groove of living in a new place, and that's good, so I'm glad. I should mention it's July 3rd, so just so we know, 2020, so 4th of July next, observed today, I guess, and officially tomorrow, so happy 4th of July for, I guess, Americans. And then Canada Day was a couple of days ago, I think July 1st, so got a lot of Canadian FDN, so happy Canada Day. Not sure what you guys do on that day. I have to plead ignorance on that, but happy Canada Day, and hopefully you're at least gearing up for an enjoyable weekend. We'll just say that. Have a good weekend is our goal. So we're going to answer some questions here today. I've got some written in here, and again, if you guys want to jump on to see a lot of you guys on the call switchboard there, some familiar area codes. Cool. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. That's cool. But hey, before I go much further, I've got some graduates I want to announce. So actually 4 for this week, and we're hitting a lot of area codes this week, which is tremendous. A lot of them represented here. So 4, got the ladies representing today. So we want to say congratulations to these 4 amazing folks. Made it through the course. Super good job on verbal finals and proved themselves with the practicals. And I know a lot of them just cannot wait to get out there and do the work of FDN or starting out their business or adding it to what they're doing, they've already got those things figured out. So it's just off to the races. Once you complete the course, within a day, you're out there practicing running labs. So we don't hold you back. So I want to say a big congratulations to these four. Emily Miller from Pennsylvania, and Natasha Ponomarenko, I believe. I'm sorry, I didn't do the verbal final with her. So, Natasha, I'm sorry if I messed up the last name there, but from Maryland. And then Lisa Nichols, and she is living right now in Dubai, in the UAE. And then also Amanda Brown in Australia. So, again, all over the world. This is tremendous. So, ladies, congratulations. Good job. Proud of you. Cool stuff. And one more thing just to mention, too, keep in mind, the FGN Conference is still a go, October 23rd to the 25th. So this will be, oh, gosh, is our third? I was thinking about it. I guess it's our third, isn't it, Ryan? Third conference or fourth?
Third. Yeah, it's the third. Yeah.
Third. Golly, slipping my mind here.
Yeah, I know.
So it's become just a regular thing now. It's like, hey, we just do this conference. So still on for sure. So check out information that we're solidifying speakers. Seeing a lot of FDN practitioners or FDNs that or people that have FDN certification being part of that lineup, and that's going to be really cool. So hearing from some of our own people coming to this course with expertise that they like to share, and then you also can gain information and knowledge after you graduate the course. So we've got a little bit of both, it seems like, with our speakers. So FDNs are really good to speak to other FDNs. We know each other really, really well. So that speaker lineup is looking really great, and have good accommodations and a good time together. So it's a good weekend. So you guys check out FDNconference.com and check out the details there. There's probably still some deals on tickets, and then get accommodations set up and make plans to join us. It's going to be awesome like it is every year. You get to meet Ryan and I, hopefully. So
that's right.
Come say hi.
I'm glad it's still on. It's a lot of fun, and I'm glad it's still going on. I know there have been a handful, of FDNs that have been asking about if the conference was going to be canceled or not. So as far as we know, everything's all a go, right, Brandon?
Exactly. Yep. We're still planning on that. If something were to change here, of course, we might have to go to a virtual conference. But right now, it's still going to be live in person, and whatever regulations and recommendations made by the state of California or that venue, we'll abide by those. But we'll do our very best to do it in person. So, which is awesome.
Awesome.
All
Very
right.
Cool.
Yeah. So let's see. We got questions, but Ron, anything I'm forgetting about announcement-wise, or anything sort of going on with AFDNP, or anything you want to give a little bit of a update on, or let us know about?
So last week on the call with Reed, I had mentioned that Jennifer Woodward and I have been doing a new segment on AFDNP called Quick and Nerdy, and it's kind of like a shorter detective hour format, where our goal is to cover a health topic in about 20 minutes rather than an hour-long format, just for some, kind of quick tips and clinical information. Last time that did end up being 40 minutes, so we're going to try to do a better job at keeping it to our intended length. But for everyone that's interested, we've been covering a client case, a somewhat complex client case with someone with H. pylori. She's also dealing with a calcium shell, what's called a calcium shell on her HTMA. And it's kind of neat because we've been breaking up that case into small chunks. So every other Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on AFDNP, we'll be elaborating further on this case and going deeper into the details. So it's kind of neat. We're going to break up this one case into six separate segments, almost like a series. So everyone should check that out. And if you're not an AFDNP member, you definitely should be, so that you can get in on all of the clinical goodness.
I love it. I love case studies. That's cool, breaking up into segments there. And, hey, 4 out of those 6 segments you might know pretty well. But W2, maybe you don't, and you're always going to pick up nuggets and little tips and things that might apply. It seems like always those type of things, they seem to come at the right time. It's like, oh, that's the answer I was looking for this client or this case. So thanks for doing those, offering those up.
Sure, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So, and we're just getting rolling too. So, we're going to continue to, get more efficient at it and keep delivering different kinds of cases and diving into some different topics. So I have some pretty neat ideas for it. And I have some ideas too for diving into some topics that are maybe some common myths in the health space and sort of debunking those, or, kind of going deep into some topics. Won't give too many details at the moment. Some things are still kind of in development, but yeah, that's the idea.
Mm-hmm. We have a lot of those things in development, don't we? That's the goal thing. So course updates are going well. So Reed's hard at work on those, updating with the access panel there. So those are hot and heavy right now. And then several other little things going on there. So some are smaller, some are much bigger. So ultimately, it's moving FDN in a good direction. The cool thing is that the principles don't change, right? So they've never changed really since the beginning. And that's mostly what we cover on this call. Really pretty often is just going back to those principles and applying those to anything and everything that you come up against. So that's the cool thing. Principles don't change, but technology and, I'll just say technology and what we have available to us shifts and changes. So that's the cool thing is you get to move with the industry, but yet the principles stay the same. So really maybe your information technology things get easier or better, and ultimately the effectiveness maybe doesn't change necessarily. It just makes it easier to be a practitioner and come up with technology, and it's pretty cool. So I'm excited about shifts and changes there within the course, within what we offer to you guys, anything to make it easier, right? Better customer experience or better client experience for sure. So guys, just keep your eyes peeled. We'll let you know as soon as things are ready to roll as we kind of roll things out. But good things. But the good thing is, principles don't change. So focus on those principles. I know a lot of times with, I guess just trainees, you're learning those principles at the same time you're learning about individual labs or certain worksheets or different things that we use. So it seems like when people seem to get a little bit nervous is when, some of the labs might shift or change or the tech might change. That's not the biggest thing. Labs can shift, tech can change, that's fine, but the principles are really what you want to focus on. So if you have those principles firm and in place, then anything that changes on top, it's a big deal. It's just like remodeling a house. It just looks better and nicer, but the foundation, the principles are always going to remain the same because the body's not changing. And traditionally and typically what we are allowed to do as mostly unlicensed practitioners, that's not really changing much either. So get those foundations laid. All the little things on the surface, those can shift and change a little bit. That's just life in the industry that we're in. All right. Yeah. There's my maybe comment on that there. I think I always appreciate Reed usually does some kind of monologue on a Friday call and hits a few of those principles and updates, but I know he has been super hard at it to make FDN even better, if that's even possible. It is. All right. Well, Ryan, what do you think? We jump into questions or anything else you wanted to mention?
We can certainly jump into questions, yeah, and I'm really glad you made that point, Brandon, about these principles not changing. And the only thing I would maybe add to that too is that the body doesn't change much either. I mean, that in terms of the machinery of the human body itself, as far as I understand, hasn't changed all that much over hundreds of thousands of years. So the good news there is that it's not all of a sudden the basic principles of our physiology are going to change all that much from one generation to the next. We might be exposed to new kinds of toxins and stressors in the environment, but the machinery of the body stays the same. So therefore, the principles stay the same too. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then talk about the dress protocol. Those are those are pretty universal, right? So it's the lab testing that allows us to take that DRESS protocol, some of the basic things, and make them very specific for that person's body. So that is the variable there is individual biochemistry. And so that is a nice thing, but it can also make things a little more challenging, right? So everybody's going to be different. So that's where using those principles helps you navigate individual body chemistry. It's just a neat process. I've had a lot of good sessions this week with clients, with a lot of improvement, a lot of new people coming on too. Things people just want to be healthy and live this way and this approach, and it just works so well. I don't have apprehension going into sessions with clients ever anymore. Maybe in the beginning, of course, we all have some uncertainties, but now at this point, you just know you're going to have been good results, and you're going to change some lives. I say that a lot on this call, but I don't mean it to sound kind of cheesy there or over dramatic, but it's life-changing work. You know, when you go from a person that has headaches all the time, that can't hardly move because they're in pain, they're not sleeping well. If I have a little small thing that's not feeling good on me, that really affects my life. It's hard to imagine back how things used to be. Sometimes in my body, so many things going wrong, and I'm not sure how people make it through a day. And then to be able to bring some relief to that and to help the body to function properly, and when the body's functioning well, what happens to symptoms? Those start to dissipate and disappear. And it's just gratifying work. I've been very grateful this week for what we get to do. All right.
It is.
Well, let's go with some questions here.
Work. Let's do it.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I know it's good. I love it. All right, let's see what we've got here. So I will just make a shout out there for hands raised if you guys want to jump on at the beginning. It's always good to jump on at the beginning because by the end, time runs out kind of quickly on this call. So if you have a question, don't be shy, jump on in the beginning. Hit 1 on your keypad. Again, 347-637-1378 is that number. All right, let's see here. So let's look at one here. Kind of interesting one. So we haven't talked about this in a while, it seems like. Question said, should coffee enemas only be used to support a liver cleanse, or can they be used as ongoing liver support? How often should they be used? Either way. Thank you. All right. So I guess I'd say things like coffee enemas. I think coffee enemas, automatically about dry brushing and uses of a sauna or infrared or old-fashioned, steam sauna, liver gallbladder flushes, things of this nature. So things that we can do, oil pulling, things we can do that aren't really necessarily supplements. They're just like healing modalities, different things we can do, behaviors we can participate in or do on a regular basis. They all sort of fall into that category for me. And just like about anything else when it comes to DRESS protocol, there are going to be appropriate things for different people, different situations. Part of it can be something you actually know about the case, the person, their physiology, that you would pick one thing over the other, something you're seeing on lab work. Or it could also just be something that resonates with that person more than another. I've had clients that really want to do coffee enemas. They say, I really want to try these coffee enemas. So that's a pretty good sign that that person probably needs to try to do coffee enemas. But if they're very, very resistant to it, well, maybe it's just not the right time. So we always get that question like, are coffee enemas something everybody has to do? I'd say on that aspect, it's not really the question here, but on that aspect, I've had many clients that just love coffee enemas, and they make such a huge, huge difference to their health. And most of the time, when you're going to start out, more like this question is asking about, them being part of direct focused liver support or detoxification that you're trying to accomplish. Maybe a little work on constipation, but generally you're trying to support that liver, cause some release of glutathione. You're trying to do some detoxification. For that, it's very powerful. But it doesn't mean that you couldn't use those on a regular basis. I have many clients that maybe they would do 2 or 3 a week for a little while. And when they're doing some more in the intensive work, sort of the correction phase of what we're doing with them, I'd be working through a 3 or 6 month program. But then, just like you would always want to do, is have some kind of maintenance schedule set up. So maybe for maintenance for that person, they do a coffee enema once a week or every couple weeks or kind of whenever they feel like it, one of those things. So hopefully the goal is to teach your client to listen to their body and get a feel for what works for them. That's the biochemical individuality. We all know that detoxification is important and essential to life. Is coffee enemas the best thing for them? Maybe, maybe not. How often? How strong? Concentration of the coffee, how long they keep it held for, different things you might mix in with that. Everybody's going to be a little individualized. So I think as long as you're not seeing any signs of something negative, and coffee enemas are always a positive thing, I think they can be done weekly would be no problem. Maybe even sometimes twice a week, depending on, again, the phase a person's going through. You've got to get toxins out of the body, and sometimes the body needs a little bit of help, and that's why we've got supplementation and all the different things I mentioned there that you can consider when you're trying to help along the detox process or deal with a healing crisis. Coffee enemas are very good in a healing crisis. That's maybe one of the better uses for them. They seem to be very, very fast acting. So if they're having some die-off for whatever your reason they're having that, a coffee enema can make a big change real quickly for a person. Even things like headaches or migraines, you can do a coffee enema sometimes and relieve one of those. That has happened before. Had that instance, hear that quite often. So, great to move in and use as part of a protocol. Now, sometimes they don't always resonate with the person's body. And that's just like anything else, right? Anything else we might recommend, you may not have that to resonate, and that's okay too. You have other things you can choose. Coffee enemas aren't the only way that you can support that aspect of the body. It's a little bit case by case, as we say often.
And Brandon, I think you kind of alluded to this in your response there, but would you say that detoxification is a protocol or a lifestyle?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, good question. So always a lifestyle, I would say. Now, are there aspects where you go a little more focused, a little more heavy, and it takes over a little more of your life, I guess? Yes, but I would say lifestyle. That would be, if I had to pick one, it's definitely lifestyle.
Yeah, I would agree with that, right? And of course, occasionally you're going to need to plug the hole, so to speak, right? If someone's showing up on their lab work that they've got some impairment in their detox pathways, then like you mentioned, you're going to have to go a little heavier on those protocols. But I think detoxification is something that we always want to be mindful of, and it's something that I always try to aim to teach my clients and to provide them with, plenty of education on that topic, that, that the odds are against us in a sense, not to say I'm trying to instill fear in anyone, but we do live in a toxic world, and we do need to try to both minimize exposure and to be optimizing our diet and lifestyle for detox, right? And so that, might include everything from an air filter at home to water filtration to some of these healing modalities, like you mentioned, dry brushing and castor oil packs, coffee enemas, and so forth. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Right. And, but, I'm on a personal level, I'm always thinking about detox, right? Just as prevention, right? Because I don't want to end up in the same health rut that I was in years and years ago. Right. So for me, it's also about, maintaining what I have, maintaining that level of wellness that I have and continuing to optimize it. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Pretty much everything we're doing with the FDN will ultimately result in improved detoxification. Everything. Think about the entire address protocol, making adjustments to diet, good rest, hydration, exercise, reducing stress. Most things we support with the body, a big function of the body is to detoxify it, because we have toxins that we bring in. Also, your body makes toxins just by metabolism. There's things that we have to get rid of. Obviously, urination and defecation for sure, but there's lots of toxins that move into that funnel that needs to get out of the body there. I find that if I have a client that is a little bit stuck, one of the areas I tend to look at is to say, okay, how about detoxification pathways? So, kind of going up the funnel there. I like Cellcore Biosciences, like their detox funnel. That graph illustration is very good to have in your mind and use with clients. So, kind of going from bottom to top, you've got the colon. So, if the bowels aren't moving well, okay, we've got to get that moving well, using whatever you want to use for that. Above that, you've got liver and kidney, and above that, the lymph system, because your organs and your cells, they're dumping toxins into that lymph system and then down to liver and kidney and the colon. So all those need to be moving well, all those different areas. So much like the digestive system has things you think about chewing your food and the stomach and then the small intestine and the pancreas and the gallbladder and all the whole process of digestion. Well, detoxification has some similar pathways there. So thinking through those. So if those person's not making progress, I found often that somewhere along the way on that detox pathway, something is impaired, not working so well. And so being able to make some recommendations to support one of those areas, that could be exactly that linchpin that makes everything just kick in and work. So I'm always thinking about detox for clients too.
Yep. And then, just from the external side of things too, minimizing exposure in terms of toxic cleaning products, cosmetics, water filtration. A big part of my own health journey was being exposed to mold toxins and living in a moldy house, So I could be doing all the liver support in terms of supplements and all the dress stuff, to some extent what wasn't going to help just because I kept being re-exposed to those toxins, right? So even if the pathways are open, if the faucet is still running, the bathtub's still going to fill up with toxins, right?
Yes.
And in keeping the drainage open, to kind of use that same bathtub analogy, it's going to be helpful, but you also have to cut it off at the source if you're getting exposed to these things all the time.
And that's where our coaching and training education comes in. So those things you need to have that checklist and go through those things with your clients. May not be the very first session you have because there's lots of things that may need changing, but it's something that needs to be kind of like a checklist. Go through that checklist there and minimize as much exposure as possible. And I think it's easier to do today than ever. I know we have more toxins and chemicals than ever, but the things to remediate and to address that, they're pretty readily available. So we all have access to those things.
Yep.
So coffee enemas, thumbs up. Good things to try. It's one of the tools that in your tool belt that you can pull out and recommend to somebody in various different applications or circumstances. All right. Well, hey, we've got a caller, so let's grab a caller here. So 707 is the area code. So 707, what's your name? Yep, 707, are you there? You're on the air. All right, we'll come back there. Maybe false alarm. Okay. That's all right. But 707 area code, 707-486 is the rest there. So, okay, that's fine. So, again, if you guys want to call in, ask a question, hit 1 on the keypad, and 347-637-1378 is that number. All right. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, here's one I like to talk about here on the call because I get this often on verbal finals, and people have questions about this pretty frequently. So the person says, I see on the protocol sheet that DHEA, Pregnenolone, Progesterone should be taken for 12 weeks. Does that mean they have to be discontinued after 12 weeks or need to be taken for at least 12 weeks? I reviewed the course lecture on hormone supplementation, didn't hear it in Reed's talk. Also searched the comments and didn't see any answers to this question. So, all right. So, there is some confusion on this. I think just a little bit of confusion around hormone, pro-hormones supplementation. So, another tool that you have, much like coffee enemas, I would say, connect this with coffee enemas. much like coffee enemas, you have different tools you can pull out of your tool belt when it comes to supplementation. And supplemental DHEA, Pregnenolone, and Progesterone are free tools that you can bring out that you can use if everything lines up. And just like any other supplement, everything says yes, go ahead and try that and use that. So if lab testing, history, symptoms, and the person wants to, if all that lines up, then definitely have no problem using some supplemental hormone. So, and when it comes to hormones with FDN, part of it falls under the relief care category. So a person can start to feel quite a bit better with some hormonal supplementation. No doubt about that. But it's also trying to reawaken some pathways and get things moving. If that's all that you did and you weren't doing the rest of FDN, then I think that goes right against principles and the way we want to work and help somebody. Because you can go down the street to the doctor, a lot of places, and get a blood draw and check hormone levels, and they will readily prescribe bioidentical hormones. And you can go down that route if you want to and try to find the balance there when it comes to hormones by just supplementing and trying to raise and lower levels. People are doing that by the thousands or millions maybe. I don't know. Very popular, right? So, but principle-wise, with FDN, we know that just monkeying with numbers is not building any health. A person might feel better. That's very possible. But we really haven't built any health, but we haven't really asked the question, well, why are those hormones out of balance in the first place? Why would some be high or some be low or out of range? So that's the bigger question always. Just like with, why is your blood sugar out of control? Why is your weight out of control? Why is your cholesterol high? Whatever you want to say. These are all symptoms. These are still all symptoms. And so fundamentally, we have to address the root and the foundation. So if you're doing that, in addition to doing some intelligent allopathy, some relief care, that's abiding by FDN principles. But if all you're doing is just really getting good at guessing and doing relief care, you probably aren't really building any health and doing the deep down real work. And a lot of us that came to FDN, that's all we had to begin with. We just had, general lifestyle principles, and we get good at guessing with supplements. It's where you get into the lab testing and the whole system of FDN that you start to really, truly build health that, if you maintain it, can be lasting health. So I'm going to go on for a bit about this because we get a lot of questions about the hormone drops, right? So what I hear often on verbal finals is, I'm afraid to recommend hormone drops. I'm just scared about those. And so I'm thinking, where is this fear coming from? So keep in mind that what we're doing in the application of hormone drops in the FDN protocol, the whole program doesn't hinge on them, right? So if you, for whatever reason, don't recommend those to that client, that's okay. You're still going to get awesome results, because if they hinged on hormone drops, then we'd all be screwed, because you can't always do hormone drops, or people may not respond and feel good to those hormone drops. So that's one tool that you can bring out to bring some relief care to that person, support the system, get things moving in the right direction in addition to everything else that we're doing. Keep in mind, when we're talking about these hormones, they're precursor hormones. We're typically not going to be doing direct estrogen or coarse testosterone replacement. We're putting things in the top of this tree, this hormonal tree. And things, when you put that in there, where it goes and how the body responds to it, it's going to be different with different people. I kind of wish they were stronger. There's not a whole lot of cases you're going to see ever, especially in my 10 years of doing this, where a person, they take some DHEA, and all of a sudden within 3 days their DHEA is up to 300 or something really super high. It just doesn't work that quickly or that well, honestly. So can you see incremental shifts and improvements and changes and shifts in them? You sure can. They can be very helpful for a person. But they're really relatively small amounts compared to bioidentical prescription hormone levels would be. And the good thing is that we're, number one, sequencing and titration. So if you're doing that, if something doesn't jive with the body, typically they're going to pick up on that, right? Because we're doing things one at a time, and we're moving in a small dose, and we're listening for shifts and changes in the body. So some safety built in right there. And then going back to the 12-week thing, so 12 weeks is the time that you need after you first recommend hormone drops to a person. that's when you need to do a retest. So that's 90 days. I don't recommend going much longer than that because things are shifting and changing in the body. Not that I'm worried about that, but actually, hey, our programs work and they work pretty quickly. So don't wait 6 months, 3 months. Test, take a look, see what changes are happening. There's going to be changes, and they're going to be probably really good changes. So that 12 weeks is test at that point. Once you've retested, then you have more information, right? So you're going to learn about how the body is responding to those hormone drops. And you look at the case and say, okay, do we want to continue with them? Do we want to take some out? Do we want to remove them totally? You can go longer than 12 weeks if all those markers there are in place that say, hey, this might be helpful for another 3 months. Now, woman has no ovaries or she's postmenopausal, doing some kind of hormonal supplementation might be a longer-term thing. But for most folks, if we're doing our job, we're doing FDN completely and adequately, then that person don't need to do them for more than 6 months maybe, I would say, generally, because all those resources and all the things is going to help with the endocrine system and the function of it and start a hormone balance. Those resources are going to come and going to help bring balance to that system. That's just what we're doing. So very few times will you see a retest on just a hormone panel or a Dutch test generally not look better. It's kind of rare, I would say. It's kind of rare for any follow-up labs not to look better. So being afraid of the hormone drops and using those, I don't think there's a whole lot of reasons for that, I would say, with the way that we recommend using them. Now, if you're going to use them outside of what we recommend, then that's different. But I think there's a lot of safety that's built in with those. And if you're doing your job, because honestly, I don't know how well sometimes prescription hormones are monitored in the first place. A lot of questions about that. Clinical experience and talking with trainees and graduates, that it's not always monitored nearly as closely and as well as we do as FDN practitioners. So we're keeping an eye on things. That's about the best you can do. Ultimately, if a person doesn't feel good on those, just like any other supplements, you're going to jettison those and not use them. So they're a tool you can use, and your lab testing, your retest, how the person's feeling, all those things that you would really use as gauges anyhow for progress. Even if you weren't using the hormone drops, you're still using the same gauges to say, okay, where do we go from here? I get this question a lot, especially when it comes to the verbal final, because on the verbal final you have some retesting with this. So you're looking at changes with the case and the overall person and what you're shifting and seeing. You have to make a call on where to go. So part of that information of what to do is going to come from you, because you have this insight into the person. That's this biochemical, the hidden stressors, the whole case overall, and your years of expertise. You have that you're bringing to bear in the situation. And then also you have the person, the client, and what they know about their bodies and what resonates with them and what they feel is right for them. And you have this union, you guys, coming together, and that's going to create that pathway, which direction that you're going to go. So it's a partnership that you want to develop with that client. And it's a wonderful thing when that's in the groove. That's why another reason why FDN is so successful and why it works so well is because of that relationship. Whose test results are these is the big question. So who is this person? I don't want to look at lab results without knowing plenty of background. That's why as Ryan knows, a medical director consults, we ask for those case notes filled out thoroughly, so we have a good feel for that person. Helps us with the interpretation and making better recommendations and maybe doing some clinical correlation with you. You've got to know who you're talking about or to, or whose results are these. Who is this person, stressors, and everything we can find out about that, because it does make an influence there. So that partnership, that's going to help to guide you. That's also some built-in safety there too, is how close you are with your client and their freedom and comfortable level of comfort to talk to you and tell you what's going on, what they're feeling. It's a pretty intense 3 to 6 months with a person in a way. There can be lots of course correction. Could go really easy, but there can be lots of course correction. Anyhow, so that's kind of in defense of the hormone drops, not being afraid to use them if you apply those principles. Hopefully that's helpful. Maybe that needs to be a recording, or just play that on the verbal finals when I have that. But it's a valid question. It is for sure. And it's a good question. It's not a bad question at all, because safety and kind of the do no harm concept there definitely applies to what we do. We want to help a person, right? So if we feel like something might not be beneficial or could harm them, or we don't feel like we know what we're doing, then we probably don't need to be doing it. So that's an integrity thing too. Okay, Ryan, I'm sure you got lots of thoughts on what I said, but sorry, that stole all the time there. But
about as comprehensive as it gets. That was a pretty solid answer.
Well, I hope you guys hear that, and just that kind of alleviates some fear, helps you navigate what your opinion is of using some hormonal supplementation when appropriate. I might use it 25% or 30% of the time. It's not like 3/4 of my clients I'm going to be using hormone drops and trying to find where they go, where they're going to fit into this protocol. That's not even my thinking at all. They're just another tool, and it says, hey, you know what? This might help bring a little bit of balance here, a little touch of this, or a few things here. Everything's all really low. Let's use. I think we could use all three here. That would kind of help support the system there, or maybe we just need a little progesterone to balance out some higher estrogen. You have those different, again, tools you can use.
And a lot of times it's going to be intuitive based on your impression, your larger impression of all the other clues and everything that's going on with the client and their symptom history. All their history of exposures and all that good stuff.
Yep.
But
exactly.
I like how you weave that in with the use of the bioidenticals. That we're always asking why. If someone's progesterone is low, is that from chronic stress? Is it from nutrient deficiencies? They don't have the cofactors to make progesterone. Is it a thyroid issue? Right. Sometimes there can be thyroid issues affecting progesterone levels. Is it, gluten sensitivity can also tie into progesterone being low. So, kind of looking at all those factors and putting it all together is what it's all about. That's what we do.
Exactly. And I've had trainees say, well, how do you know which one it is? You don't.
Well,
you don't know.
You don't. And oftentimes there's not a silver bullet solution, and that's not what we do. We're not looking for, even the term, I say this all the time, that even the term root cause is a bit misleading, because for the vast majority of my clients, and I'm sure you feel the same, there's no one single root cause. We're working on everything. And most people have hormone imbalances, nutrient deficiencies, gut bugs, toxins, immune dysregulation, right? All this stuff is going on at the same time. So it's not as though you can magically just pull the string on one of these elements and it's going to fix the problem. You have to address the system as a whole, right? Like, we're one body, we're one system, we're one integrated system. So you have to treat the body that way. And that's why these foundational dress principles are so profound, and why this formula, if you want to call it that, why it works. Because we're addressing the system non-specifically in a generalized way, and we're working on all of it. So that's kind of, in my opinion, kind of relieving in a sense, because we don't really have to worry about getting into the weeds with all the specifics, right? We just need to trust the process and let the rest fall into place.
Yes, exactly. And that usually works itself out while being in the course. I have a lot of people that I get. One analogy I used to use, maybe it's still good. I think it is. I'll throw it out there. So, and maybe some of you guys don't know this show, but The Price is Right, old game show. I think it's still on. So I grew up in the Bob Barker days and stuff. So, but anyhow, so they had a game on there called Plinko, and it was like a big pegboard, and they would earn these different discs that they would be able to drop at the top of that pegboard, and down they would go bouncing around the pegs, and then they were hoping that it landed in $10,000 or $1,000 and not $0 or $50, whatever it was. And so with that Plinko, you would drop that disc, and it just obviously just bounces around kind of random. You don't really know exactly where it's going to land. It's a little bit like that with hormone drops, or using the pro hormones there. Exactly how the body is going to utilize it, it's kind of anyone's guess. And trying to figure out precisely and be able to predict 100% where it's going to go and what's going to shift and change is like being able to call that Plinko disc where it's going to go. It's just the chances of that are pretty slim, and that's a thinking we have to get out of, because our hormone pathways, it's not like plumbing in your house where it's, you turn on a faucet, water's going to go here, and then right to the faucet. It's just not the way the body works. But we can monitor these things and help guide that progress there by listening to the body, doing adequate retesting. That's the tools that we have. So, I don't know, Brian, do you remember Plinko, that game?
Oh, yeah.
The Price is Right?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Now,
make sure my reference wasn't too far out there.
The Price is Right is still going on, right? It's just a different host.
I think so. I think that's right.
It's I'm trying to remember that guy's name. Not that it's relevant, but
Drew Carey, is he on? Yeah.
That's it, Drew Carey. It's Drew Carey. Yep. Mm-hmm. I watched the Drew Carey. He had a sitcom when I was a kid, and I remember watching that and watching Price is Right with Bob Barker with my grandma. So I definitely have that visual as a kid of watching that Plinko game with the ball kind of hitting the pegs and it just kind of bounces around. And so that can definitely happen with using like a bioidentical DHEA, right? So DHEA is the parent hormone to both estrogen and testosterone. So if you're already high in estrogen and your goal is to raise testosterone, then you might not be doing yourself much of a service there, because like you said, you don't know where that ball is going to land, and you could be inadvertently feeding more into the estrogen pathway, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep. Good. Very good example. I should have given one. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And oftentimes, Brandon, I heard you say you'll use hormones maybe about 25% of the time. I'm right there with you, and often I'll try to see what I can sort out with diet and lifestyle first, and then maybe on a retest, even if I'm not 100% confident in using those hormones on the first go around, I'll look at a retest, and if things aren't really moving in the right direction, then maybe that's the time to bring something like that in. So that there's definitely more than one way to skin a cat, and it ultimately comes down to your clinical intuition and judgment. But that's what I would probably say to a starting FDN that's maybe a little bit hesitant to use them. You don't necessarily have to. There's oftentimes a lot you can do to restore hormone balance just by reducing stress, optimizing the diet, working on gut health, and just seeing the hormones resolve themselves. And then if things aren't moving in the right direction, then you bring on that bioidentical progesterone or pregnenolone or whatever it might be.
Yep. And you're not trying to play BHRT doctor with the hormone drops that we have available to us, right? So that's not what you're trying to do. So don't get into that mindset either. You're not competing with the guy down the street that's doing that kind of work. It's something different and way beyond that. I don't know how many clients you've had, Ryan, that have already been down that route and it didn't go well for them. And then they come to us and we do all our wonderful FDN magic. And all of a sudden, wow, I had my period back for the first time in 135 days and lost 20 pounds. And you look at lab testing, retests, and things are looking amazing. How did that happen? It's just the wonder and magic of FDN. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I got 10 minutes left in the show, guys. I want to grab this 707 again and see if their person is there. 707, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, but I apologize. I must have accidentally hit that number one. I do not have a question today, but I've been enjoying the conference. So,
good.
About that.
No problem. That's fine. So Well, good deal.
Right.
Well, if you have a question, you can jump in again. All right. Sure.
All right.
That's fine, too. We've got a hello there, so I'll keep your privacy intact there, 707. All right. Good stuff. So, well, about 10 minutes left in the call, so if you guys do have a question, now is the time to ask it and to jump on. Again, 347-637-1378 if you're listening there on Blog Talk Radio Live. You can dial in with the old-fashioned phone. And will we ever get rid of the phone? I hope not. That's just part of life. But call in that number, ask us a question. Let's see. I'll wait a second for hands to be raised. Otherwise, we'll grab another question here. Okay. This is maybe a little more current one here that might be helpful. We've answered this some, but just to reiterate in case you missed it. Looking and talking about the replacement for the BioHealth 101. I really like the markers and info we could get about the liver, gallbladder, protein digestion, oxidative stress from this test very much. So, with the 101 being gone, we are moving forward without it, but at the same time still keeping our eyes open if something does come available that we have access to that we can do that would give us some help there. But the good thing is the GI map, so our preferred stool test now, there are several GI health markers at the end of that lab, which are, I think, really super valuable there. And there are multiple GI health markers there that do give us insight into digestion and into liver function. So your steatocrits, your elastase 1, your beta-glucuronidase, those are some markers that do give that inferred information about digestion and liver function. If you do run a Dutch panel, the oat panel on the Dutch and also the estrogen metabolites, that's going to give you some information into detoxification and also antioxidant potential. So you do have some markers on those tests. So those two tests right there combined together, I would say give you just as much, if not more, information about the markers that were on the 101. And if you're going to just run the Access panel and run the stress and hormone panel, which is a great lab, I've been really impressed with it, the saliva test where you don't have the oat aspect of that, you still can get enough information to know where to go because we don't just recommend based on lab tests, right? Just because the number's there or not there or high or low doesn't mean you just recommend only based on that, right? So it's your clinical experience. It's all the other signs and clues that you get from your client that helps you decide which way to go. So if you're reliant on a marker to tell you what to do with your client, only one single marker, and that's a yes or a no, then you're kind of missing the big picture. Literally, you're missing looking at everything collectively. So you do have that information. That's where the principles, I kind of wish before we started this conversation today, it's the principles that don't change. The technology and the labs can change. But if I'm thinking, okay, liver function, how do I know how that's working? How is digestion working? Okay, well, I don't have indican, but I've still got steatocrit and elastase 1, and I've got how this person is feeling and everything I know about them. I know that we've got some gut bugs, and they're bloated all the time when they eat, and they've got undigested food in their stool. I wonder if they have a digestive problem. It's kind of that simple. So I think we're covered. Ryan, what about you?
I think so, too.
So, again, it's if a lab goes away or a supplement goes away, that's not what you've been taught. It's not how to interpret a 101 only and work only on a 101 and recommend this for that and this for that. That's really a pretty, elementary or low-level way to work. You can hit the mark on that sometimes, but it's all the collectiveness. You've been trained to do something pretty amazing. You're a professional on all aspects. And so there's more than just, here, support liver when this is low or this is high. This is what we do. That's pretty basic. We've got to go deeper for people. A lot of people can run labs, but not everybody can interpret it properly.
That's right, and it might even sound silly to say, but it can be a helpful reminder. It's not the labs that's getting someone better. it's not as though you run the right lab and that's magically going to help somebody. It's ultimately comes down to the client's willingness, comes down to them and their willingness to engage in, lifestyle and dietary modification based on what you're finding on those labs, right? So I do see, people getting upset, like occasionally, like, oh, this lab, has changed into this lab, and the interpretation is different. The ranges are different. And, going back to what you were saying at the beginning of this call, the principles don't change, right? So a good practitioner should really be able to look at any hormone panel or any gut test and be able to make an assessment on guiding a protocol for them using those principles. So if you're getting hung up on the lab ranges and the and all that kind of thing, I think you've got the wrong idea because it's not what it's about.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well put. Good reminder. Exactly. Yeah, good stuff today. So we're looking good there. So I don't feel like that my protocols and success and results have suffered because of some changes. But hey, there's lots of things out there. So as a graduate, you've got some other labs you can incorporate if you wanted to. If you wanted to run an O panel as part of your intake, you could do that. It's a powerful, awesome test. So you do have some freedom, but have to have those foundationals in there. So anything else I think is icing on the cake and is very useful. I love HTMA very much. Oat panel can be super helpful. Blood chemistry can be helpful. Just all used properly, judiciously, and within FDN principles. And it's actually kind of fun because if you've got 5 basic labs and you throw in, HTMA and you throw in some blood chemistry, most of the time dots are going to connect, and it's going to be even more clinical correlation if you know how to look at those things. I think it's an amazing process. Mm-hmm. And then getting it able to have a session with the person and go through that with them and walk them through and connect those dots for them and explain with that powerful clinical correlation, that's where it's at. So become really good at clinical correlation. That is your ace in the hole every time, because sometimes explanations about anatomy and physiology or the numbers and those things, we're used to looking at those numbers, but most of our clients aren't. Maybe it's the first time they laid eyes on their lab results, right? And many times that is the case when doing an R&R. So cover those things, educate them, but always go back to clinical correlation, because that's what everybody's going to understand. So get really good at that, and the fun and the impact of your sessions just grows more and more.
Remember the Cardinal Rule: know thy client. It's all about. It's not about what's on the lab paper. It's about the story. This is often how I've been thinking about it lately. It's what story are these labs telling me about this person? Is this someone that has a lot of occupational chemical exposure? Is this someone that's been, the recipient of a lot of emotional trauma in their life, and they're stressed out, and it's making their hormones go all out of whack, right? Or whatever it might be, right? But it's really about understanding, the relationship between the labs and the person, and always tying it back. Really great example. Just this morning, I was looking at an organic acid test from Great Plains, really great test, and I saw an elevation and a marker that I had never seen before, and I started doing some research on it, and I found out that particular elevation is associated with an overexposure to a chemical called styrene. And so you actually might think of like styrene cups, like those styrofoam coffee cups, right? Mm-hmm. That people drink out of. And so Sure enough, and I checked in with a client, not only does he, occasionally drink coffee out of those styrofoam cups and is getting styrene exposure that way, but also he works with film as his occupation. And this is where I had to do a little bit of digging because it wasn't something I had seen before, but I was willing to do that investigative work and to tie it back to his unique lifestyle and exposures. And it was just kind of neat to see that because he's getting that styrene exposure through film photography, which is what he does for a living. And I can't tell you the exact particulars of it, but what I found was that, there's something to do with the chemicals used in film and there's a lot of styrene or something like that in working with film. So there you go. And, that tied back to his GI symptoms and, liver congestion and some hormone issues he was having. And, it was another little piece of the puzzle we found.
It's a great way to put it. You put the detective work in and you're creating a story, even the order that you cover the labs in. If that creates that story, that impact that makes sense to that person, you're doing them a service that way. So very good. Good stuff. All right. Well, guys, time's up today. So we're going to say bye for now, bye for this week. But I do want to say congratulations to our graduates again this week, Emily, Natasha, Lisa, and Amanda. Proud of you guys, and you two guys too can join the ranks of FDN practitioners do this amazing work. So keep plugging along. Ryan, thanks for joining me and for your awesome input as always.
Thanks, Brandon.
And you guys have a good, safe weekend. Be strong, and I'll talk to you guys next week. See you then.